Hi, Planted viewers. For this episode, we are branching out. That's right, into the topic of trees. We're at the Poulsbo Library, where many tree classes are held in the beautiful landscape here. With the chilly weather, this is a cozy spot to find a tree book and settle in. All our segments today focus on trees, their value, the best ones for home gardens, and a fun segment to test your tree knowledge. So stay rooted. We'll be right back with the wise and dedicated folks from the Poulsbo Tree Board. Kitsap is a community of tree lovers, as evidenced by the fact that we have 3 cities in our county that are designated Tree City USA. What that means is that these cities understand and promote the benefits of trees in urban areas and have policies to both plant more trees and protect existing trees. The cities of Bremerton, Bainbridge Island, and Poulsbo are tree cities, a program overseen by the National Arbor Day Foundation. We're here in the busy library, and with me today is Jim Leary, Master Gardener and long-standing active volunteer with the Poulsbo Tree Board. Thank you for being on Planted.
Well, thank you, Colleen. It's good to be here.
Tell us about the Poulsbo Tree Board.
Well, the Poulsbo Tree Board was started in 1997 to advise and educate the mayor, the city council, and citizens on tree-related issues. This includes planting trees on public property and on private property as well. We aid the community in selection and planting and maintenance of trees and provide classes for that. Poulsbo is in large part distinguished by its trees.
Well, trees are so important to have in our cities and in our gardens. Tell us why.
Well, there's lots of reasons, Colleen, and I probably am not going to hit them all, but basically, trees can shield us from the hot summer sun and can shield cities by 2 to 4 degrees, which is amazing. Trees can aid in our flood control. They can charge groundwater, and they can assist in land stabilization. Trees provide habitat for wildlife, including pollinators, and by their sheer presence and beauty can raise our spirits and our well-being.
Kitsap is quickly developing. The presence of trees is more and more important. Why should we protect and plant trees?
Well, our urban environment with its buildings and pavement and other surfaces that absorb and retain heat can cause all sorts of problems, economic problems, ecological problems, and heat health related problems. And so our tree canopy can help improve that situation immensely. The University of Washington has done a lot of study in this regard. Some of the things that they found are that trees can improve your property value, and they can tend to lower crime rates. The University of Washington has also found that trees in neighborhoods can reduce health-related problems. It's a well-established fact that an awareness of nature can improve health outcomes. And so what the university has found is that it reduces things like depression, can reduce cardiovascular disease, and other health-related problems.
Right, lower blood pressure maybe?
Also, national studies have shown that neighborhoods with tree-lined streets tend to get people out, meeting their neighbors and forming community, more so than neighborhoods that don't have trees.
Well, I know that when I'm in the presence of trees, my well-being is improved. So it's great to see scientific documentation that that is in fact the case. What advice would you give a homeowner who has a property with few or no trees? And what advice would you give a property owner that has a lot of trees on their property?
Well, for the property owner with lots of trees, I would say treasure them. They are a real community and personal asset. For the property owner that has few or no trees, I would say you can improve your property and your neighborhood by planting trees, and we can help.
Tell us about some of those opportunities that the Poulsbo Tree Board has for people to protect and plant trees.
Well, we're a busy group, but the Poulsbo Tree Board has classes on planting, pruning, tree selection, climate change in trees, hazard trees, and more.
Oh, that's a lot.
And we have classes, in-house classes, we have field sessions, and we have tree walks. So come and plant some trees with us. as part of our Tree City USA program, or sign up for a heritage tree on your own property. Fish Park, which is one of our real community assets, is always in need of volunteers for planting and for maintenance. We also, all our tree board meetings are public. And from time to time, we need another volunteer because some of us tend to retire at various times. And so we want somebody that values and loves trees as much as we do.
Well, that's wonderful. I appreciate you being here on Planted and sharing your expertise with us.
Well, glad to be here.
To learn about the Poulsbo Tree Board, the classes they offer through Parks and Recreation, or volunteering, visit their website.
Welcome to Tree Whiz, where you get to test your knowledge of trees. Trees are fascinating and complex, and misunderstood. There's a lot of misinformation on the web, even from well-intended organizations. I'm in Centennial Park in Poulsbo with Gayle Larson, Master Gardener, Certified Professional Horticulturist, and Poulsbo Tree Board member, to debunk some myths and test your know-how.
Tree Whiz question 1. When pruning a tree, you should apply wound paint or sealer over the pruning cut. True or false? Gayle?
Just because sealer is still sold doesn't mean that it works or it's useful. Folks use it because they've been told that it'll help the tree recover from pruning cuts, but it actually slows down the process and can seal in moisture and disease-causing bacteria. Trees don't heal from cuts or wounds like we do. They recover by growing new bark over a wound or walling it off to keep out insects and pathogens from entering. So proper pruning techniques, then just letting the tree handle the rest without sealer is the right way to go. Saves you a buck, too. False.
Tree Whiz question 2. English ivy is a noxious weed that damages and kills trees. True or false? The best way to save a tree like this from further damage is to pull as much of the ivy off the tree as possible.
First of all, English ivy is not a parasite. It's more of an unwanted, obnoxious piggyback rider, hanging on really tightly to the tree with these sticky little rootlets. But it's not actually damaging the tissue of the tree. Ivy causes damage by adding extra weight, by making the tree more susceptible to wind damage, and by covering up foliage that the tree needs for photosynthesis to feed itself. And that massive ivy traps moisture at the bark, encouraging disease and rot. So to remove ivy, don't just pull it off. Those little rootlets, they're tough. And if you pull those off, you risk taking some of the bark with them. So the answer is false. Cut off the vines at the ground, and again at about 4 feet high. Gently peel off the vines in between your cuts, and then dig out as much as you can around the tree. Eventually, the vines that are left on the tree above your cleared area will dry up and fall off. It's not a quick process, but with persistence, you can clear the stuff off of your trees.
Tree Whiz question 3. When digging the hole to plant a new tree, it's best to make the hole as deep as possible, even if you can't make the hole very wide. True or false?
False. Plant your tree with the trunk flare just at the soil line. This is a place at the base of the trunk where it gets a little wider and the first roots start. Shallower is better than too deep. Roots go wide to find air as well as water. Trees planted too deeply can suffer and die after a few years. When you buy a tree in a container or a burlap ball, be sure to pull the soil away from the trunk to check that it's not buried too deeply already. If it is, remove as much material as needed to expose that trunk flare. Your tree will thank you.
Tree Whiz question 4. When digging a hole to plant a new tree, refill the hole around the tree with fresh compost. True or false?
False again. A hole full of compost is like a lovely container underground, can constrict the roots. A strong supportive root structure will only develop if it can grow out into the native soil. So fill your hole with the same soil you removed and add a layer of mulch on top instead. If your soil needs amending, do it for the entire landscape area.
Tree Whiz question 5. True or false? If you live in Kitsap County, you can learn about planting, pruning, and caring for trees through classes with the Poulsbo Tree Board.
This one's true. Find classes on choosing, planting, and pruning trees. Fun tree walks to see beautiful and sometimes not so beautiful specimens. You can check out our page on the City of Poulsbo's Parks and Recreation website to find the significant trees of Poulsbo self-guided tour brochure, tree planting guide, and more.
How'd you score, BCAT viewers? Hope you enjoyed testing your knowledge with Gayle Larson from the Poulsbo Tree Board. I know I did.
We're lucky in the Maritime Northwest. Our mild climate allows us to grow many kinds of trees. But the big selection can be daunting, however, to find the right tree, especially for the small home garden. So to make it easier, we've selected 5 great trees for Kitsap Gardens. So Jim, these are taken from a larger list of trees put together by the Poulsbo Tree Board. How many trees are on that big list?
Well, Colleen, it's a big list. 51 trees on the list, shown by their common name and their scientific name. The guide also shows their mature height and width, as well as preferred orientation, sun orientation, and soil type. The guide is really just a starting point for your study, for more research, or for questions to your nursery person.
Right. Well, it was hard to narrow it down to 5, but we chose 2 evergreen trees and 3 deciduous trees. Why might someone want an evergreen versus a tree that loses its leaves, Jim?
Well, we know that the evergreen trees do a better job of sequestering CO2. However, deciduous trees offer some benefits, like the leaves shading your house from the summer sun, and in the winter, without leaves on the trees, the sun entering your windows. Deciduous trees also provide more color in your garden. They attract wildlife. The evergreen trees are harder to find in a tree-like appearance because most of their smaller cultivars are shrub-like or multi-stemmed. If you have a big yard, evergreen trees are beautiful.
Before we jump into our list, I think it's important to note that we had robust debates, right?
Yes, we
on
did.
what trees to include, and no 2 horticulturists are going to choose the same top 5, and no 2 garden situations call for the same tree. So with that said, with that caveat, take it away, Jim.
The first tree, in no order of preference, is the weeping Alaskan cedar. It's cultivar Green Arrow. Green Arrow is a cultivar of a Pacific Northwest native with wonderful texture and a pointed arrow-like shape. It likes sun to part shade, is pretty tolerant of most soils, and is drought tolerant when established, which is really important with our new drier summers.
Well, I like that choice because it has a very unique and graceful shape. What's next?
Well, the next one is the Hinoki cypress. It's cultivar Gracilis, and Gracilis is evergreen. It has a slow but behaved habitat of growing in a pyramidal shape, which needs little or no pruning. The Gracilis grows to about 20 feet in height, but is slender to about 4 feet, so it really fits in tight spaces. It also is a sun and part shade and shade, so it's not fussy about where it's growing.
That's nice.
And it's quite drought tolerant.
I think it's particularly useful in the garden for screening purposes, and also it can be used as a specimen tree too, so pretty versatile. What's next?
Well, the next one is a deciduous tree. It's the Japanese Stewartia. And the Japanese Stewartia is an all-season tree. Its summer foliage is green, but its fall foliage is orange, red, burgundy. It has beautiful bark.
Yes.
It has white flowers all summer long, but needs full sun here in the Pacific Northwest to really flower properly. It prefers moist soils, and so it's not as drought tolerant as the others.
Okay. Well, what I like the best about Stewartia is how it attracts pollinators.
It does.
Yeah. And that tree, like our next tree, is one of my favorites because it has all-season interest like the Stewartia does.
Right. The next tree is the Cornelian cherry, again deciduous. Its property of having flowers in the winter, beautiful yellow blossoms on bare branches. Its summer color is red fruit that ripens in the late summer. It's a real attractor for songbirds and other wildlife. It too has exfoliating mottled bark, beautiful. It takes sun to part shade and a variety of soil types, and is quite drought tolerant once it's been established.
Well, right now, cornelian cherry's blooming, so February, March, and when it blooms, it really stands out in the landscape when there's few things that have leaves or flowers for that matter. So this next one, you fought hard for the inclusion of this one in our list, so I think it's your favorite.
Oh, yes, I did, Colleen. It's the Japanese maple.
Yes.
And the Japanese maple has spectacular fall color, and form. It's a long-lived tree, will adapt to most soil types except for heavy clay. It's hard to describe because it has a variety of colors, it has a variety of branch types, a variety of leaf types. It shows a tolerance between sun and shade, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful, though, when you're selecting it. And the best time to select it is in the fall when it's showing its real fall color. And that's also the best time to plant because the winter rains water its new roots.
Right. Well, it sounds like with the variety of different shapes and forms and sizes of the Japanese maple, that's one that you have to really do your research on to make sure you're getting one that's what you want, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jim. The BCAT viewers can find the Big Tree List at the Poulsbo Tree Board's website, but we also like the Great Plant Picks and the WSU Kitsap Master Gardeners websites. A big thank you to Jim Leary and Gayle Larson for sharing their knowledge and inspiring us to love and take care of our trees, and to the Poulsbo Library for the welcoming venue that also supports local tree and horticulture classes.
And would you look at this big stack of tree books that we can take out from the libraries? This is great.
I know, I love it. Until our next episode of Planted, don't forget, the more you grow,
The more you'll know.
Links for this episode are posted in the video description.